It's no secret that Pixar hasn't been having the best luck lately. This studio that used to crank out one beloved blockbuster film after another has hit a bit of a rough patch in the last few years. Ever since they gave John Lasseter the old heave-ho, things just haven't worked out so well. They've had a couple high-profile flops in a row. Lightyear, need I say more? I think Elemental had enough legs to turn into a respectable base hit eventually, but it says a lot about the current state of things that qualifies as a win right now. It wasn't that long ago that Pixar movies were practically printing money, but leave it to Hollywood to latch onto something that works great just the way it is and completely destroy it in their attempts to fix something that ain't broke. So needless to say, there's been kind of a lot riding on Inside Out 2 to, if not reverse the studio's downward spiral, then at least stop the bleeding. It's a sequel to one of their big hits, not the one I was asking for, Incredibles 3, but not an unwelcome one either. I know a lot of us are feeling really gun-shy about studios trying to turn every single movie into a franchise sequel generator these days, but people seem to really love the first movie, and it did set up for the story to continue, so what the hell? Short version? Inside Out 2 is not a bad movie, but it's not as good as the first one either. I like a lot of the ideas in it, I like the new characters, there's certainly nothing awful about it, but just by watching the trailer, I had a pretty good idea what the problem was going to be. That problem being that it's basically just the first movie recycled and reskinned. The story of this one is Riley has hit puberty, so she has a bunch of new emotions to deal with. The new emotions decide that the old ones aren't sophisticated enough for teenage Riley, so they kick them out, and then things go horribly wrong. Now, on paper, that all looks like a perfectly fine idea, except that there's nothing new about it. The plot of the first movie is joy and sadness are taken off the board, Riley can't feel them and has an emotional breakdown because you need all your emotions to be a complete person. And in Inside Out 2, joy, sadness, and anger, fear, and disgust are taken off the board, Riley can't feel them and has an emotional breakdown because you need all your emotions to be a complete person. It's the same freaking thing, just with the pieces moved around a little bit. Oh, but the emotions get more complex as you grow up, and that's supposed to make it new and fresh. And yeah, it kind of does, that's true, but it's still the same damn idea. I watched the first movie the other day just to refresh myself, and I was surprised how similar this one was. The emotions even spend a lot of time on the exact same set pieces as the first one, trying to do basically the same thing they had to do last time, telling the same type of jokes they told last time. There really isn't that much here that's new. There are a bunch of new emotion characters, though Anxiety is really the only one that does anything, and credit to her, she's one of the best things here. Maya Hawke was an inspired casting choice. She makes Anxiety so delightfully quirky and gives her so much personality. The other newbies are just kind of there, but Anxiety is the biggest scene stealer the movie has. So this new character that you're building things around is good, but when everyone is just rehashing many of the same beats from the original film, it doesn't have the same impact that it had before. It tries, it comes close a few times, but unfortunately, there's no take her to the moon scene in this one. What we get instead is interesting in a different way, but it doesn't hit as hard. Like, at one point, Joy is having kind of an existential crisis, which was compelling from a character standpoint. It was well written, it was smart, there was nothing wrong with it, but compare that to Bing Bong sacrificing himself and literally ceasing to exist to help Joy escape the memory dump, and you start to see that Inside Out 2 just isn't taking the same big swings that the first movie did. Even the story with Riley seems less important this time. In the first film, she's trying to jump on a bus and run away back to Minnesota, and God only knows what could happen to her then. In this one, the only thing that's on the line is hockey practice. Oh no! Is Riley gonna make the high school team? Who cares? If that's the worst thing she has to deal with right now, I think Riley's gonna be just fine. Now, I'll give them this. Easily the best sequence in the film involves Riley having a full-blown anxiety attack. And if you've ever had one of those, for the record, I've had a couple, that's gonna feel very real. I was nodding along with it the whole time, like, yeah, that's what happens. That's what it feels like. That scene was exceptionally well done. But at the same time, the effort seemed a little wasted because the stakes of the story are really not that high. We're getting worked up over a big fat nothing burger here. Maybe one thing happens or another thing happens, and either way, it's not the end of the world, so who gives a shit? It's compelling to watch, but it never reaches the point the original film got to, where Riley was almost in genuine danger because she couldn't get her head straight. Weirdly enough, the stakes do feel higher for the emotions, but that's only because all 5 of them have been kicked out of headquarters this time. It's not because they're in any greater danger than they were before. They're not. It's kind of the opposite, actually. Now, I will give them kudos for tackling some more mature issues in this one. One of the big subplots is about how as you grow up and your emotions get more complex, it becomes harder to appreciate the simple ones, like joy. And holy shit, did that feel true to life. That one really got me, and I think anyone who's struggled with depression knows what I'm talking about. So there are good ideas here, but I think the writers were more interested in the psychology and the emotion of the story than the story itself, if that makes any sense. And those things were good, they were even great at times, but that didn't stop the plot around them from feeling phoned in. Look, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing Inside Out 2 or anything. I'm not. I like it. I think it has a lot of good qualities. As a take on what happens when a kid hits puberty, it felt very genuine. Although there were definitely some particular teenage issues that were left on the table, I enjoyed the anxiety character a lot, and it was weirdly fascinating to me that the big climax the story builds up to is just a kid sitting on a bench and having a freak out. But that's not the most compelling thing to do as a movie. Overall, the stakes never get as high as they did in the first one, and I guess that is honest in a way, how as you grow up, your emotions can become overwhelming sometimes and make things seem like a bigger deal than they are. But if you're just watching the person that's happening to, I think you want a bit more to happen story-wise. And as a sequel, I'd like them to do a little more than just slap a new coat of paint on the plot of the first film. Sure, the plot of the first film is really good, and it's not like they don't add anything new to it, they do. The movie just left me wishing for more originality from a studio that used to have tons of that stuff. And if Pixar really do want to get back to their winning ways, they're gonna need to try a little harder than this. Thanks so much for watching. While you're here, ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. The links are down there. And don't forget to do all the other YouTube things. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to have all their normal emotions kicked out of their head and be reduced to an anxiety-riddled basket case is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now. I'll be back with more soon. Take care, stay tuned. I'll see you next time.